I'm Bob Trask. This is our weekly reset, and today we're going to talk about this incredible question. Are our lives getting better? Like my life and your life. We want them to get better. We don't want to always stay exactly where we are. And it may be a pretty good place where I am or where you are. But still, we want them to get better. We want a little more of this and a little more of that, and to be a little bit more in peace and a little healthier and a little wealthier and have better relationships, so we want it to get better. Stevie Ray Vaughan said, I was taught to think the next week or next month or next year will only get better than it is today. So I just keep waiting to see how great it'll get. Over the centuries, this process of modernization has greatly affected our lives. We live now lives that are very different than only 50 years ago. And I mean, for some young people, 50 years ago might seem like, well, yeah, that was way back. Yeah, it was in another century. But I was 37 years old 50 years ago. So it isn't that long ago to me. But the quality of our lives has been changing, really changing. And the quality is usually measured by what? By how long we live and how happy we are while we're living those long lives. But then we need to have a say so, don't we? We need to have some say so in how happy we are and how long we'll live. And I think sometimes we get in a rut and we don't see our ability to change our lives for the better. Those ruts can get so deep we don't even know they're there. So today I'm looking for those ruts in your life and in my life. We're looking at those blind spots that keep us from living as long as we want to and as happily as we want to. I talk to some older people and I say, you'll live into your hundreds. And they say, oh my goodness, I hope not. And they say, I hope not. And I think, well, then there's no more joy in your life. Your life joy has gone away. Why is that? That's because we're in a rut. Because see, when we're reaching upward, when we're always reaching upward, we're reaching for the light. We're reaching for joy. We're reaching for the best that can come yet. We're reaching upward. And when we're reaching upward, then we're always happier. We're happier because that's what we're supposed to be doing on this planet, is reaching upward, as growing, and becoming more of who we came here to be. I use the analogy so often of a tree. Little tree, little sprig comes up in the forest floor, little seed takes root, and here comes this little sprig up, and these little guys looking around and saying, "Oh my gosh, this forest is so huge. How will I ever get up there?" And then he says, "I guess I'll just do what trees do." And what do trees do? They reach for the light. That's all they do. They reach for the light, and in doing that, they become these tremendous beings. Now, I don't know if you feel like I do about trees, but you can look at a tree, you're looking at a living being. Now, I don't mean it's a human being, and I don't mean it thinks or it has emotions, but it has consciousness. It is consciousness. It is the expression of consciousness, a tree. And look at this tree. Gosh, I can remember so many trees in my life, so many amazing trees. The bark, the bark just is so striated, and the bark tells a story. There's never two pieces of bark or two images of bark on any tree like any other tree that's ever lived. Everything I look at a tree is brand new and it's different. And when I look at you, when I look at your face, that's brand new and different. Everything's brand new and different. And when we're reaching for the light like a tree, we see these things. We see each other as new and different. So in preparing today's talk, I looked back at the evolution of human societies to see whether are we always getting better? I mean, what's going on with us? And I looked at studies that analyzed 143 nations. 143 nations, and found that happiness and longevity have increased in most cases. Interesting. That increase in happiness and lifespan wasn't always there as we went up, evolved through the ages. When we humans left the hunter-gatherer age and entered the agricultural age, we became less happy and we didn't live as long. Boy, that surprised me. I thought, here I am with my little nomadic group of people, and we have to keep moving our tents and moving to stay where maybe we can find more roots and vegetables and stuff to eat, and we can be closer to the caribou or the deer or the buffalo or whatever. It surprised me that moving into the agricultural age would have slowed us down. But see, here's the thing that we have to think about. And when in the hunter-gatherer age, everyone was involved. Everyone was involved. Everyone had a need and a purpose and a meaning. Each person in the tribe had something they were supposed to be doing. And it was always uphill. They were always like the trees. They were always reaching for the light. They were reaching for better life, for better, always reaching. I mean, when you get a farm and you got your fence and you got 2 cows to milk and you're raising corn or whatever, it pretty much is the way it is. But still, that really surprised me because I thought we'd always gotten healthier and happier. But then the next change, from the agricultural age into the industrial age. And when we got into the industrial age, we started living longer and we were happier. Still surprising to me, but that's the way it is. And now comes another shift from the industrial age into the information age. And this change is the most profound yet. And that's what I want to talk about today because it has a real strong implication for you and me and for whether we live long and whether we're happy as we live. Because this shift might mean that you and I, regarding our happiness and our longevity, is compromised because in all the other ages, we had a part to play. We hunted or we gathered or we farmed or ranched and then we manufactured and we were all involved in one way or another, each one of us. Now with the advent of AI, artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence mechanized factories and computer generated thises and that's, a lot of us feel like we're being left out and left behind. We can't even figure out how to get the doggone computers to work the way we want them to. So we feel like we're really falling out of that, like we're not even needed. Things done with automation and artificial intelligence are even done most often more efficiently and more effectively than we could have done them. So really, does that mean that we're not needed? If so, our happiness and our lifespans are really going to take a hit. Jim Rohn, one of my contemporaries and a man I honor and admire very much, said, "Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change." So as the world's changing and society's changing into an information age, into an AI age, but are we changing? I don't mean we have to change with it, but we definitely have to change because change is evolution. Change is reaching for the light, not getting in our rut and saying, oh, well, it just is the way it is. No, it can be more. We're not valuable to the world because we have paying jobs. We're valuable because we're involved. There's one thing that will ensure a long and healthy life. It's this. Are you ready? It's confidence. Confidence in ourselves and confidence in each other and confidence in our world. Confidence. I think right now we're embroiled in a war, and it may be that people say, well, I don't really have confidence in my world anymore. It feels like it's all falling apart. But it's fallen apart so many times, but it always comes back together. And the reason why that is because there's an underlying atmosphere throughout this universe that's called peace. And that peace is the home base of love and of grace. And it doesn't really make any difference whether these little petty ego people create wars or do whatever they do. It always comes to an end, and there's always happiness, and there's always love, and there's always peace. Always will be, always has been, always will be. We're this little tiny dot in the universe, a little tiny speck. We're in this entire universe, we're no bigger than the point of a pin. We're tiny, tiny, tiny. And that universe is a presence, a consciousness, and it has meaning, and it has purpose. And peace and love and grace are consciousness, and they are the universe. And we just have to know that. We have to have confidence in that and in ourselves as incarnations of that grace, of that powerful consciousness. And as incarnations of that, we each have the ability to make this world better. In a poll taken a few years ago, it was found that the thing most people wanted, most people, more than any other thing, was personal self-confidence. Then we need to be reminded that in all of the 188 billion people who've lived on this planet, I'm the only me, and you're the only you that has ever lived or ever will exist. Therefore, you are precious. You are precious because you're unique. You're the only one. You've got those fingerprints. Only you've got this eye print. Only you have this neural structure in your brain and in your body. Only you. That's only you. Only you have this voice. You're individual. You're unique. You have qualities that are essential to this world. Diamonds are precious, aren't they? But what if there was only one diamond? And there was all kinds of other jewels, but there was only one diamond. Now, how precious would that diamond be? And you are the only diamond ever. That's who you are. A unique and perfect being. You're perfect. If you have something in your past that's bugging you, let it go. You are forgiven. I don't care what you did. You are forgiven. You are forgiven. You are innocent. You're starting over now. You're the only one in the world or even in the universe. You are precious beyond measure. And you're not your history. You're not your memories, and you're not your experiences. You have a value to our world in this information AI age if you're awake and expressing your uniqueness, Then you're making our world a better place, even if it's helping someone across the street, even if it's saying to someone, you look nice today, even if it's calling someone on the phone to say, I love you. You're valuable to our world. And that's tied to your splendid uniqueness. Now, here's why it's really important for you and me to know that. Because that's where the confidence in ourselves and the confidence in our world is built. And as I said earlier, living longer and happier lives depends on this confidence. And another word for confidence is trust. The comedian Joan Rivers said, I wish I could tell you it gets better. It doesn't get better. You get better. And that's the truth. You get better. If you're reaching for the light, if you're involved in this world. And don't be one of those people who says, oh, the world's going to hell. I'm just going to pull my covers over my head and go back to sleep. We can't do that. We in this society have a higher standard of living. The average citizen lives more comfortably now than kings did a few centuries ago, and we live longer. And while poverty is at an all-time low, there's still a lot of poor people out there, and we can do something about that by radiating our light out into the world. So it seems that it would give us a sense of confidence, which would lead to good health, which is one of the most important aspects of happiness and longevity. Health. And health begins in the mind. Oh boy, I know people who have um, no arms or no legs, or whose arms and legs may be paralyzed, and they can't go on. I know a guy who's got his body is twisted and his voice isn't really good, but he just keeps going. He just keeps going. And nobody can say to him, well, you have the ability and the right to pull yourself back because you're crippled. No, he would say to you, no, I'm not crippled. I'm not crippled. He's going forward. He's reaching out. Michael J. Fox is suffering from this terrible disease, and he's raised hundreds of millions of dollars to fight that disease. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And he just keeps going forward. Now, yeah, we have health problems that are not a result of attitude. But still, it's attitude when we're under the weather that largely helps us beat it. Our goal is happiness, is living longer and living with joy. So we need confidence. I've known several people with terrible diseases who've amazed me by still smiling, by still finding things to laugh at. And those are the ones who get well. There was a woman who came to one of my seminars in San Diego, like almost 50 years ago. And when they all sat down, I said, oh, let's talk for a minute about why you came here. Let's just go to each person and just say why you're here in this seminar. It's a 5-day intensive spiritual boot camp seminar that really opens people's eyes to who they are and what their real power is. Anyway, she was sitting in the audience, and when it came her turn, she said, well, I came because my daughter said that I should give this a try. She said, my doctor said I only have about 6 weeks to live. I have metastatic cancer, and it's through my body. It's in my bones and my brain, my liver. It's everywhere. So she went through the seminar, and I didn't see her again. And about 20 years later, I went back to that same venue to do another seminar like that. And she was in the audience. She was in the classroom. And I said, why are you here? She said, because the doctor told me I only have about 6 weeks to live. And the last I heard of her, was like 15 or 20 years later, is that she was running a cancer um, outreach center in Los Angeles. She kept reaching for the light. She didn't stop. She didn't think about, oh, how awful my life is. Oh, how awful I have cancer. Oh, how awful I'm dying. No, she was not dying. She was living. And she found new ways to open herself up. She got out of her rut, the rut that said that she wasn't worthy of being whole, well, and complete. She got out of that rut, and she went back to living. She went back to growing. She went back to reaching for the light. The medical teams rely on us to help them with our healing. And that takes confidence. So here's the thing. When we go forward in life, we come to these bumps in the road. We come to these areas where it doesn't feel like we can get beyond that. It feels like we're stuck. This just doesn't feel good. And we have a problem. These problems come up, and they're really big problems. But when we get through those, and we always get through those, When you look forward at this thing coming up, you say, I can't get through this. But in a little while, you'll be looking over your shoulder and you'll say, it's behind me now. But what we need to do in order to build self-confidence is own the win. Own the win. To look at that thing that seemed to be so big, remember how we felt about it before we started, and then allow ourselves to say, oh my gosh, I'm bigger than I thought I was. I'm more than I thought I was. I solved that. And own that. And that builds self-confidence. And another thing that stands in the way of our happiness and our long life is poor relationships. We need good relationships, don't we? We need to we need to love, to be allowed to love and to feel loved. To know, not only to know that we're loved, but we need to feel loved. We need to have somebody give us a hug, somebody touch our shoulder when they go by, somebody look into our eyes and say, you look good today. And that's connection from the heart. And then we can get it from people. We can also get it from pets. I mean, pets love to snuggle up. They want to be petted. Old dog's got his tongue hanging out and his tail's wagging like crazy, and he's just arfing, arfing, arfing. He wants to be touched, to petted, to be loved, and he wants to love you. He wants to love me. And cats, kittens, it doesn't matter what they are. They love to cuddle. They love to be loved, and they love to give love because that's how they reach for the light. In order to know deep in our bones that we belong, and that we have a right to be here. We need to have that assurance, that confidence. We must have value for someone in order to be confident. Relationships can be difficult. I know that. But Steve Jobs said, if you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better and better as the years roll on. So how about money? Because that's a biggie, isn't it? Can we be happy and live long lives when we're suffering from poverty? I don't think so. But confident people, having confidence in themselves and their world, are not living in poverty. They find ways, regardless of their lack of education or lack of influential friends. They find ways, and because they're confident, they become healthy, uh, financially healthy. They have abundance. But some people just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. More money. Got to get more jobs. Got to work more hours. Got to get more this, more that, more because I got to get money, money, money. Because money makes up for all of the things that are missing in their lives. They're living in a rut, and they think that they paper the walls of that rut with money and it'll be better. It's still a rut. Still a rut. Having money doesn't mean being happy or living longer. I know a number of people who are very wealthy, but who are not happy. Our president is one of those. He's a billionaire, and he's one of the most unhappy people on the planet. The two only go together if the person with money is also confident and is a pleasure to their world. Some of us have a lot of money but aren't happy. And I've asked hundreds of people in seminars and in counseling sessions, hundreds of people, why they want wealth. And most of them say they want it so they can feel free. Boy, I really understand that. I really understand that. I say, if I have a lot of money, then I can buy the car I want, or buy the house I want, or go on trips, or go on vacations, or I don't have to put up with this job job. I know, I understand that. And so people think, boy, if I get really, really, really wealthy, then I can be free. Yet those I know who are very wealthy, I can't think of one who will say they feel free. They're beset by obligations that came with their wealth. The truth here is pretty simple, isn't it? You can't get happy and feel free by being wealthy, but you can get wealthy by feeling free and being happy. Can I say that again? You can't get happy and feel free by being wealthy, but you can get wealthy by feeling free and being happy. It starts with us experiencing that which we want. So if we want to live truly happy lives, and if we want our lives to improve and get even better than they are now, there's only one sure way to do that, and that's to increase our confidence in ourselves and confidence in life so that we can reach out and be who we came here to be. Those who have the best lives are not often those who had the easiest childhoods, not the ones that got the breaks. They're the ones that live balanced lives, because with balance comes the confidence that makes for happier and longer lives. Now, we truly feel worthy of having longer and more bountiful lives. Here's this week's homework. Yeah, homework. And this homework, if we'll do it, will ensure longer and more bountiful lives. Promise you. We can only create what we feel. That's power. That's a powerful part of it. So we have to end the feeling of not having enough, because that feeling is producing in like. When we have a feeling of not having enough, the feeling is producing and like, the feeling is ensuring that we'll never have enough. So to open the flow of good into my life and into your life, let's spend at least 10 minutes each day this week in appreciation of the health, the relations, and the wealth that we already have. 10 minutes. You might say, well, I don't have any relationships. I don't have any relationships. You do have relationships. You're relating. You're relating to the world, and the world's relating to you. You may say, well, the relationship I have with my neighbor, but it's a bad relationship. We don't like each other. It's still a relationship. And you can find goodness in it. And there's goodness in every part of our lives. So maybe I need to find relationships. So, okay, let me get out on the street and start walking down the street and saying to everybody, good morning, how are you today? Good morning, how are you today? Good morning, how are you today? And then at the end of the block, I'll say, gee, I have relationships. I have relationships with people all around me. But this week, 10 minutes each day in appreciation of the health, not in not in laboring over the lack of health, in appreciation of the health, of the relationships, and of the wealth, no matter how little it is, that I do have. Alexander Gordon Smith said, hope is the most important thing in the world. I believe that now more than ever, hope, that unshakable golden belief that things get better and that things will get better and that things can get better. And Chris Colfer agreed with him. He said, even the worst situations, even when it seems no one in the world appreciates you, as long as you have hope, everything can get better. So let's not give up. Let's get our juices going. Let's get our lives going. Life will get better when we get better. And I want to finish with Ariana Grande, movie star, singer, actress, long distance runner, athlete, good person, kind person, loving person, always reaching for the light. She's one of my heroes. I just love Ariana Grande. She said, there's always tomorrow, and it always gets better. Thank you, Ariana Grande. Thank you for that. I I want to finish today by saying, let's follow these rules this week. Let's do this homework. I'll do mine. 10 minutes a day in appreciation of the health and the wealth and the relationships that we have. And it's not anymore during those 10 minutes, not looking at all with what we don't have or what's not right, but what is right. And by the end of the week, you're going to find out that life feels a lot different. I promise you. So let's go forward this week and make a difference in our lives and in other people's lives. We can do that. I thank